Liskeard was a parliamentary borough in Cornwall, which elected 2 members of Parliament to the House of Commons from 1295 until 1832, and then 1 member from 1832 until 1885. The constituency was abolished by the Redistribution of Seats Act 1885. History. The parliamentary borough was based upon the community of Liskeard in the southeastern part of Cornwall. Sedgwick estimated the electorate at 30 in 1740. Nemea and Brooke considered it was about 50 in the 1754 to 1790 period. The right of election before 1832 was in the freemen of the borough. This constituency was under the patronage of the Elliot family, which acquired the preponderant interest by 1722. There were no contested elections between at least 1715 and 1802. In the early 19th century, the Whigs attempted to expand the electorate to include householders. During the 1802 general election, 48 householders claimed the right to vote, but the ballots were rejected by the mayor. The Elliot family continued to control the borough in the Tory interest for another 30 years. The Reform Act 1832 augmented the freeman voters, with the beneficiaries of a new householder franchise. The number of voters registered in 1832 was 218. The political effect of the change was that a Whig was elected unopposed to the one remaining seat in 1832, whereas the 2 Tory candidates had been elected unopposed at the previous 7 general elections. Only Whig or Liberal candidates were returned from 1832 until the constituency was abolished. The Reform Act 1867 preserved the borough constituency but slightly expanded the electorate. Liskeard was one of the smallest boroughs to retain individual representation in the 1868 to 1885 period. However, the constituency was finally abolished by the Redistribution of Seats Act 1885, when the borough became part of the Bodmana South East Division of Cornwall. Members of Parliament 1295 to 1629 constituency created 1640183218321885 notes HAMELY Sir John of Wimborne St Giles, Dorset. History of Parliament Online. Retrieved 30 May 2013. ABCDEFGHIJKLMNOPQRSTUVW. History of Parliament. History of Parliament Trust. Retrieved 3 November 2011. ABCD. History of Parliament. History of Parliament Trust. Retrieved 3 November 2011. http www.historyofparliamentonline.org Volume 1604-1629 Member Ray William 1601-1645 Prideaux was also elected for Honiton, which he chose to represent, and never sat for Liskeard. Election results. Note on sources. The information for the election results given below is taken from Sedgwick 1715 to 1754, Nemea and Brooke 1754 to 1790 and Stokes-Smith 1790 to 1832. From 1832 the principal source was Craig, with additional or different information from Stokes-Smith included. Candidates classified by Craig as Liberal before 1859 are labelled as Whig or Radical or Liberal if their exact allegiance is uncertain. Similarly, candidates classified by Craig as Conservative but by Stokes-Smith as Tory are listed below as Tory. Note on percentage change calculations. Where there was only one candidate of a party in succession successive elections for the same number of seats. Change is calculated on the party percentage vote, where there was more than one candidate for a party in one or both successive contested elections for the same number of seats. Then change is calculated on the individual candidate's percentage vote. Note on party allegiance of candidates. A party label is only used when the source used quotes one. Other candidates are labeled non-partisan, but may have associated themselves with a tendency or faction in Parliament. Dates of Parliaments 1660 to 1715. Note: the MPs of the Parliament of England and 45 members co-opted from the former Parliament of Scotland became the House of Commons of the First Parliament of Great Britain in 1707. Index to election results 1715 to 1799. Index to election results 1800 to 1885. Elections in the 1710s. Elections in the 1720s. Trelawney became a baronet in 1721. Death of Eliot. Elections in the 1730s. Seat vacated on Clutterbuck being appointed a Lord of the Admiralty. Death of Dearness. Elections in the 1740s. Elections in the 1750s. Seat vacated on the appointment of Trelawney as Assay Master of Tin for the Duchy of Cornwall. Seat vacated on the appointment of Nugent to an office. Elections in the 1760s. Elections in the 1770s. Seat vacated on the appointment of Gibbon to an office. Elections in the 1780s. Seat vacated on the appointment of E. J. Eliot as Remembrancer of the Court of Exchequer. Elections in the 1790s. Seat vacated on the appointment of E. J. Eliot as a Commissioner for India. Death of E. J. Eliot. Inchiquin was a peer of Ireland. Elections in the 1800s. Resignation of Inchiquin. Note: Stokes-Smith recorded that William Huskisson was returned unopposed at this by-election, but this appears to be an error. Note: 48 householders claimed the right to vote. The ballots they tendered were rejected by the mayor. 44 wanted to vote for Sheridan and Ogilvy, 3 for the Elliots and 1 for John Eliot and Sheridan. Succession of John Eliot as the second Lord Eliot. Note: Stokes-Smith does not give the votes for the elected candidates. Elections in the 1810s. Elections in the 1820s. Elections in the 1830s. Electorate expanded and constituency reduced to 1 seat by the Reform Act 1832. Note: Stokes-Smith recorded 211 registered electors, but the turnout is calculated on Craig's figure above. Note: Stokes-Smith recorded 250 registered electors, but the turnout is calculated on Craig's figure above. Elections in the 1840s. Note: Stokes-Smith recorded 285 registered electors, but the turnout is calculated on Craig's figure above. Seat vacated on the appointment of Buller as Judge Advocate General. Note: Stokes-Smith recorded 333 registered electors, but the turnout is calculated on Craig's figure above. Seat vacated on the appointment of Buller as President of the Poor Law Board. Death of Buller. Elections in the 1850s. Seat vacated on the appointment of Crowder as a judge of the Court of Common Pleas. Trelawney and Reeder classified as Liberals, as it is undetermined which wing of liberalism they belonged to. The list of MPs above refers to Grey as a Whig, so he is classified as such in this result. Gordon is classified as Liberal, as it is undetermined which wing of liberalism he belonged to. The list of MPs above refers to Grey as a Whig, so he is classified as such in this result. The Whig Party is regarded as having merged into a new Liberal Party, which was formed at a meeting of the supporters of Lord Palmerston on 6 July 1859, although Whigs and Radicals had been informally referred to, collectively, as Liberals for decades. Seat vacated on the appointment of Grey as a collector of customs. Elections in the 1860s. Electorate expanded by the Reform Act 1867. Death of borough elections in the 1870s. Death of horsemen elections in the 1880s. Electorate expanded by the Representation of the People Act 1884, but the constituency was abolished by the Redistribution of Seats Act 1885 with effect from the United Kingdom general election 1885.